Stop. Do not take another step. Do you see the pile by the side of the path? It does not look like much to the world. A bit of brush, some mossy stones, old dry branches. But if you value your peace of mind, if you want to come home alone tonight, then you will do exactly what I say now. You pick up a stick from the ground, you throw it on the pile, and you pray a silent prayer that whatever rests beneath here lets you pass. Because the legend says that if you ignore the offering pile at Mördarheden, then he follows you home. Welcome to Bedtime Chillers. Tonight, we find ourselves in a place where the ground still remembers the taste of blood. We are in the borderlands, no man's land between Västmanland, Dalarna, and Värmland. There are deep forests here, not the kind of forest you take a Sunday stroll in, but the kind of forest where people disappear. Getting here is a project in itself. We left the asphalt long ago. The last few miles have been on narrow, winding gravel roads that bore deeper and deeper into the Nittälven Nature Reserve. The first thing you notice is the silence. It is not a peaceful silence. It is a waiting silence. It feels like stepping into a room where an argument has just gone quiet. The mobile network died 15 minutes ago. The GPS is just spinning. If something happens to us out here, no one is going to hear us scream. And this specific place, the small clearing we are heading towards, has seen terrible things. It is not called Mördarheden or Murder Heath without reason. To understand the energy of this place, we must turn back the clock over 200 years. We are going to May 5th, 1808. It is a time of poverty and hard life in the deep forests. A young man, Johan Matsson, is walking along this very path we are on now. He is not old, he has his whole life ahead of him. Perhaps he is whistling a tune. Perhaps he is thinking of a girl in the village back home. He has no idea that he has just taken the last steps of his life. Out here in the wilderness, he meets Johan Matsson. They share a last name, but are not related. However, they share a history of bad blood and discord. What exactly triggers what happens next, we do not know. Was it a robbery gone wrong? Was it old jealousy boiling over? What we do know is that the meeting explodes into furious violence. Erland attacks Johan. It is no quick and clean murder. It is a slaughter. Here, in the heather and moss, Johan is beaten to death in an incredibly brutal way. The ground is drenched in blood. Erland is later caught. Justice in those days was swift and merciless. He is sentenced to death and hanged for his crime. Case closed, one might think. The murderer is dead. The victim is buried. But out here in the forest, here, it never ended. It did not take long after the murder before people began to notice that something was wrong with the place. Horses refused to pass the clearing where Johan died. They shied, reared up on their hind legs, and threw off their riders. Wanderers forced to pass here after dark spoke of an icy cold, a feeling of being watched, and sometimes the sound of heavy, dragging footsteps following them, but stopping as soon as they turned around. The old farming community knew what this was. Johan had become a gast. A gast is not a normal ghost rattling chains. A gast is a restless spirit that died a violent death and is now bound to the place, filled with rage, pain, and confusion. A gast does not want to rest. It wants revenge, or at least company in its misery. To protect oneself against this furious energy, the ritual arose. They created an offering pile. Every passerby was forced to pick up something from nature, a stone, a twig, some brush, and throw it on the place where Johan drew his last breath. The act has two purposes, according to folklore. Partly, it is a sign of respect, a way of saying, I see you, I remember you. But the darker purpose is this. They believed they could physically bind the gast to the ground. Every stick is like a small weight, a lock, keeping Johan's restless soul imprisoned under the pile so that he cannot jump onto your back and ride you to madness. And for over 200 years, people have thrown their sticks. The pile we see today is a monument to 2 centuries of pure terror. Many wave this off as old superstition. Who believes in ghasts in 2024, they say. But there are stories that make even the most thick-skinned skeptic hesitate. Let me tell you about an event from last autumn. A man, let us call him Andreas, was out on a solo hike here in the Nittälven valley. He knew the history of Mördarheden, but he was a rational person. He did not believe in ghosts. When he passed the offering pile late in the afternoon, he made a point of not throwing a stick. He even stopped, looked at the pile, and kicked the bottom branches with disdain before walking on to set up camp a bit further down the river. Evening came. Andreas sat by his small fire. It was windless, but suddenly the atmosphere changed. He describes it as if the lid was put on. All sounds from the forest vanished. No wind in the treetops, no sound from the river, no night birds. Total, compact silence. And with the silence came the cold. A raw, stinging cold that went straight through his jacket. He got an impulse to look up towards the edge of the forest, in the direction where the offering pile lay. There, right in the borderland, where the fire's glow met the darkness, someone stood. It was not another hiker. Andreas describes a figure that looked wrong. It was dark, outlineless, like a shadow cut out of the night. But the worst part was that it stood completely still. No breath was visible in the cold air. Andreas called out, "Hello?" No answer. The figure just stood there, but he got the feeling that it was smiling at him. Not a friendly smile, but a hungry smile. Panic struck. Andreas didn't bother packing up the tent. He grabbed his backpack, turned off his headlamp to not be seen, and began backing away. When he had gotten a bit out onto the path, he heard it. The sound the legend has warned of for 200 years. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Heavy footsteps in the moss. Not running, but slow, deliberate steps. He ran. He ran all the way back to his car, which was parked half a mile away. The whole time, he heard the footsteps behind him, just out of sight. When he finally tore open the car door, threw himself in, and locked it, it became dead silent outside. He started the engine, turned on the high beams. The cone of light cut through the darkness in front of the car. It was empty, but when he put it in reverse and looked in the rearview mirror, then he saw it. In the red glow from the brake lights, the figure stood right behind the car, and this time it was close. He saw that the figure's head hung unnaturally askew, as if the neck was broken. Andreas drove away in a panic. He has never returned to Nittälven, and he says that even today, when he is alone in the dark, he can feel the same stinging cold as that night when he refused to throw a stick at Mördarheden. I am standing here now by the pile. Darkness has fallen all around us. It is easy to be cocky when you are sitting at home, on the sofa, watching this. But out here, the rules of the game are different. When you stand here and feel the weight in the air, you do not dare to take a chance. The rational part of the brain shuts off, and the old primitive fear takes over. I am not going to repeat Andreas's mistake. I am not going to tempt fate. I am not going to leave here without paying the tribute. So, Johan Matsson, forgive us if we disturbed you. May you find peace in the end. You pick up a stick, weigh it in your hand for a second, and throw it firmly onto the pile. Here is my offering to you. Now we leave this place. We walk straight to the car, and we do not look back. Because if the legend is true, it is precisely in the moment you turn your back that the risk is greatest. Mördarheden is more than just a dot on the map. It is an open wound in the Swedish landscape, a reminder that some events are so violent, so charged with pain, that they never really fade away. They echo through the centuries, and if you listen closely out in the darkness, you can still hear them. Next time you walk in the forest and see an unnatural pile of brush or stones, do not just walk past. Stop, feel the atmosphere, and for God's sake pick up a stick and throw it, because you never know who is waiting to follow you home. Thank you for watching Bedtime Chillers. See you in the dark.